report?
Yeah, and I hate to keep you here too much, but I really need to talk about this idea about what's happening with the watershed group. And that was that sheet that was on the table tonight. That there's this group that's working on a lot of the watershed issues, and a lot of it's public agencies, but there's a lot of folks who are just private citizens there also. And they were together here last Friday morning and really gave an update on where they are with this large grant application that they're leading towards. So Soil Conservation Service, they're actually the ones that have kind of taken the lead about identifying these projects out there on the private lands, and they'll get together with landowners and talk through a lot of the options. Okay, this large grant application is due April 1st, but that includes these private projects out in the watershed. It will include public projects like with the DNR, and if they would do any different projects with the marsh or anything like that. That can include city projects like storm sewer outlets. If we wanted to do a rain garden at a storm sewer outlet or something like that, we can incorporate that into this grant. It'll also include stuff about the septic system in Kearney. So really a comprehensive grant application that this will be for millions of dollars. It's $2 or $3 million. Not just one grant. There's several different grants that get applied for, but basically they're all the same program about what we would like to accomplish. So as we're talking with this group of interested folks last Friday, the issue come up about, so what's the city do? How does the city promote issues about this watershed project? So I talked a lot about what we had came up with then for our comp plan. And about the number one priority out of comp plans is promoting the use of these green solutions to protect the water quality of Blackhawk Lake. When we talked through these items 1 through 7 that were listed there about how we would certainly want them to implement the findings of that diagnostic feasibility study, doing some minor things like this campaign to limit phosphorus fertilizers. We'll look at that 2-mile subdivision review issue to know that if there's a rural subdivision built out there that has proper infrastructure. On the maps, there's a 1/4 mile around any area of water, there's something called an environmental protection zone. Just a concept that was put out there that we would have different regulations in this environmental protection zone. So we haven't done anything with it yet. But that's another thing where we're getting to where we would need to formulate some suggestions about what we can do within our environmental protection zone. 5 is implementing site plan review, and that's been done. And 6 is to establish standards for stormwater management. And we haven't done anything with that yet either. But it has to do with looking for alternatives to storm sewers, because it used to be that you want to get the water there fast, that's get it into the storm sewer and get it away. And now it really changes the way that we look at the stormwater management as far as what it takes to slow down the flow, whether it's these bioswales or rain gardens and that type of stuff. We also talked a little bit about zoning and whether we would look at an overlay district. And the concept of this overlay district just being so, if you have our zoning map that has all these different types of zoning districts on it, but you said, I want some environmental regulations that are going to apply to all of the zoning districts. The concept of this overlay district is like a transparency. You just flop right over the top. It says, yep, it applies to all of these areas, and that's why they call it an overlay district. But it might say we would have these certain types of environmental regulations that we would like everybody in town to live by. Again, it's just a concept. We haven't done anything to follow through to implement anything like that.
So you want to implement this so we're in hand with this project that's going on?
The timing is really good to try to do something like that.
And the whole purpose behind the watershed group is to get the lake dredged.
No, you got to really watch the way that you said, because it's not necessarily to get the lake dredged, it's to improve the lake. Mm-hmm. And the main way that was identified for lake improvement is just stopping sediment and nutrients from getting there in the first place. So the goal out of this is, preliminary goal, is to reduce the amount of phosphorus that goes to the lake by 75%. It's a pretty aggressive goal to stop phosphorus, that much phosphorus, through physical means like buffer strips and terracing and that type of stuff. But it also has to do with farming measures and how folks farm, and that's this SCS has really kind of taken on this issue about talking with different farmers about alternatives for the way that they farm. But out of this, in this meeting on Friday, we started talking more about this grant, and they looked at the maps up there, and they say we had some different proposals for this environmental district, and would we have certain waterways or retention ponds in some places, and they says if you had specific projects, they'd be eligible to apply for these grants. But I don't know that we have anything in mind about specific retention pond projects or waterway projects, buffer strip projects, anything like that would be eligible. Just don't know that we're not that far into the process to have anything specific. But the last thing then that we talked about with the group is to get our local lake support group up and running. It used to be called a Lake Preservation Association. Anymore, that doesn't seem to be politically correct to call it that anymore, because you're essentially saying that the farmers don't preserve the lake. So now it's called the Watershed Management Authority. And
that's special.
but anyway, this was identified as one of our top priorities through our community marketing. We really want to do this. So these were my list of things that I thought we would do with our Watershed Management Authority, and we'd solicit members to be ambassadors for water quality, and we'd implement these dues for ongoing operations, and we would help with branding of the lake so that we always put out a consistent message of the lake and lots of information sharing. Back of the page talks about representing the lake with developers, holding some special events, and advocating for other lake-related enhancements like maybe the trip. Working with Lakeview and Sac County P&Z to implement some of these environmental regulations. You advocate for the lake improvement project, and that would be like lobbying for funding. And of course, this would also be the private fundraising arm. But then as we discuss this thing, it really can be a separate legal entity, and it's something that the group was really looking for, was this to be a legal entity, so it could be someone who can hold environmental easements. And then also the group could at some point look towards future maintenance responsibilities of these easements. So, but it's not then that they're just telling us that we'd like to have this group and they would tell us what to do. This is actually an opportunity, a really good opportunity for us, because there's some funding that comes along with this. So the state's got this water quality initiative that's out there, and the state has a specific grant that's going to be coming up here in the next few months that deals with setting up these watershed management authorities. Okay? So our initial thought is, and they would encourage this, is that they would work with Emily on the PR side of things, doing a lot of the stuff that she would be doing through our marketing plan. And that certainly is eligible then for reimbursement under this grant. But they also want to really look a lot bigger than that, because they are looking at this legal entity that has a lot more obligations than just the marketing of the lake. But, so there's that last paragraph. There's this fund that's set up, that's $750,000, and they're going to award grants to 4 to 5 groups around the state to establish this watershed management authorities. And then this last one was Emily's verbiage, actually. Surely we can build a good story for this purpose, having not formed any sort of group yet and having one of the bigger watersheds in Iowa to manage. Yeah. This ends up being a lot bigger issue than what I had ever really envisioned it to be. But we have an opportunity here that we certainly will be getting a lot more information to you about establishing a formal watershed management authority.
So do you target just certain individuals, or just trying to get them on board, or is it something that you...
Like what, for
the...
into the authority?
Yeah.
There's certain folks and certain governmental entities that need to be involved.
Okay.
They're actually mandated that every government subdivision in the watershed at least has to be invited to participate, I think. But I don't want to lose sight about the volunteering side of things either, because I think that's where a lot of the best results come. It's just having a membership organization that drives, the good news about the lake. And I think that's just as important as a lot of the physical stuff that this group would do. Anyway, that's just a lot more information on that forthcoming here, and that will occur in the next few months, so short term. The other thing that I would ask you to put on your calendar is this public meeting about the TMDL study, and that's January 27th, 6 to 8 p.m. at the Lutheran Church. Because that'll lay out some other ideas about what the DNR would have in mind for lake restoration.
What time?
6 to 8 on the 27th.
Look at that. Okay, we need a motion to go into closed session.
Ready? Yep. Huh?
Yes.
Lane?
Yes.